Hi, I'm Mandy and I run Cutting Out the Pain, as most of you have probably all seen on Facebook. Cutting Out the Pain is an organisation for self-harmers and all ages, all ethnics and all different backgrounds. Self-harming isn't sort of like a typical thing that you can look at somebody and think, oh right, okay, they self-harm. It's not like that. So let me explain to you a little bit about self-harming and a little bit about cutting out the pain. Self-harming is when somebody intentionally damages themselves or injures their own body. It is usually a way of coping, which is coping with sort of like overwhelming emotions and distress. Sometimes when people self-harm, they feel at some level that they're intending to die. Over half the people who do die by suicide have a history of self-harming. But I'll just explain a little bit on that, what I mean by suicide and it being a history of self-harming. In some cases, people do actually self-harm, and unfortunately, by accident, they do end up dying, and that's where obviously the history of self-harming comes in. However, the intent is more often to punish themselves, express their distresses or relieve unbearable tensions. Sometimes the reason could be for both reasons, basically. Self-harming can also be a cry for help. You've got different types of self-harming. A lot of people tend to think self-harming is about just cutting or scratching. But self-harming isn't. It's also cutting and burning their skin. It could also be somebody where they're physically punching themselves or hitting themselves, pulling their hair out, just basically where they're actually physically hurting themselves. It could be poisoning themselves, which is tablets or toxic, I can never pronounce that word, so sorry, chemicals. It could be a misuse in alcohol or drugs, of where basically just so I don't sound like one of these people that say, oh, could you have a drink or blah, 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 you're a self-harmer. I don't mean it like that. 99% of the population go out and have a drink. That's fine. I wish I could sometimes, but I can't. What I mean by drinking is where you drink to the excess of where basically you're drinking yourself into oblivious and you stay in that oblivion for quite a while. You've also got deliberately starving themselves, which is also anorexia, as most of us all know. And then you've got the other relative of anorexia, which is bulimia. Bulimia is where basically you binge eat and literally just make yourself feel sick after you've gorged a lot of food. You've also got, which is a crazy one, because like considering the government and everyone else is like, oh no, you must keep healthy, you must exercise more. But extensive exercise also apparently is classed as a self-harming. I personally can't see how, but I've never experienced that side of it. So I suppose if you was to speak to somebody that is obsessed with exercising to the point of where it is damaging their body, then yeah, I suppose it can be classed as a self-harming. Although some people who self-harm are at a high risk of suicide, many people who self-harm don't want to end their lives. In fact, the self-harming may help them cope with an emotional distress, or some don't feel the need to kill themselves. It's always a way of surviving life. There was a little thing that basically I sort of found, and it says, she paints a lovely picture, but the story has a twist. The paintbrush is a razor and the canvas is a wrist. Quite honestly, that sort of meant quite a lot to me in a funny sort of way. So basically, we've cutting out the pain. That's what we sort of work in, and that's where we venture out, and we try and make as much awareness around self-harming that we can make. And we also, if people want to talk or they're finding things difficult, then we're also a safe place for them to be able to talk. The reason why I started cutting out the pain is personally I had quite a bad experience with self-harming myself. I was sort of like try and share a bit with you, obviously. But I started self-harming when I was around about 6. By the time I was 10, I was diagnosed with anorexia. And I struggled with the self-harming, the anorexia, for many years. By the time I was a teenager, I turned to drink and drugs because I just couldn't cope with a lot of the emotions. And a lot of my emotions originally started because I found out that I was actually fostered at the age of 6. And at that age, it was very confusing. And it sort of like really turned my life around. And I just couldn't understand at that age. So by the time I got to becoming a teenager, I sort of really went off the rails. And anybody that knows me knows how bad I went off the rails. I did go through a really bad stage of rape, which went on for long periods of time with the same person. I couldn't tell anybody because I was always told if I did say something that my mum and dad were going to be hurt or get killed. Or at one point I was actually told that my brother's car's brakes were going to be cut, and basically, so as you can appreciate, I stayed very quiet and I just carried on sort of punishing myself all the time. I got to a stage where I was actually asked why I self-harmed, and the only way I could explain to people why I self-harmed was, it was in my mind, it was like my body was like a sink, and just imagine you're doing your washing up with your greasy, dirty plates like you do, and you finish washing up, and you pull the plug drain thing out. All the dirty water just sinks away, and then obviously you refill it again when you do some more washing up. Well, that was the way I looked at self-harming. Every time I went through that rape situation, I'd go on a really bad self-harming spree, and that was my way of cleaning myself. Or I would starve myself to, in my eyes, it was I was starving away the germs and the dirt and the badness that was in me. Then I sort of would get drunk to block out. And then when the drinks didn't work, then obviously, yeah, I started taking drugs for that to block out. I went on for a number of years. My mum and my dad was very stressed. They didn't know how to help me. Or I remember my dad always saying to me, is one of these days you're going to end up killing yourself. But I didn't really care because personally, the only way I could explain it is I already felt dead inside anyway. But that went on for, I don't know. If you ask me to think back to my youth years, that was my life. About 13, 14 years ago, my brother was getting christened, and not my brother, sorry. Yeah, no, my brother did get christened. And then, obviously, he asked me onto an alpha course, which I don't want to go on that for. It seems a bit boring, but I try it. So I did. But in my mind at the time, to be quite honest with you, I just sort of thought, I'll go on this alpha course because at least I can get into an argument and probably not get arrested, because, like, I was constantly always getting... If I wasn't in an A&E department, I was in a police cell. It was one of the two. I was a nightmare. And so I did. And if I'm honest, it changed my life. Because for the first time in my life, I actually felt accepted. I felt listened to. I felt belonged. And this particular night, I was just laying there in the bath and I was ready to end it. I was honestly and truthfully just ready to end my life because I'd just had enough. So, I just looked up and just said, right, okay, if it's true what they're saying about you, then you take over, because I haven't got the strength. And I just got out of the bath and I took the drink away, chopped my razors, chopped the tablets. And for the first 2 weeks, it was really difficult, because it was just like, and anybody that knows me and has walked the walk with me will know what I mean. It was the hardest 2 weeks. I had cramps, I couldn't move, I was being sick, I was hallucinating, it was like spiders coming out my ceiling. It was just like, it's postnatal chaos. And I did it. And anyway, sort of time moved on, and I started going to church, and I found my faith. And this particular day, I sort of come up with this really crazy idea, and I was like, oh, I know what we can do. Why don't we set up a support group for people that self-harm? So they said, if that's what you want to try and do, we'll try and do it. So I went away, drawed up and created some posters and some leaflets and some material and things like that. So obviously, like a presentation to put forward. I did all that, and it just happened so fast. It was like 1 minute, like I was this recovery person, and the next minute it was like travelling around doing my testimony, like to Scotland and to different places, and then it was like different newspapers and different TV programs, and it was just really overwhelming. And to quite honest with you, I just could not work out where all this had come from, but I did it anyway. Then I got invited up to the Houses of Parliament to do a talk in there with the MPs, which was a real big challenge, but I did it. I got invited up to York to receive my national award, which I'll show you all very soon. And yeah, things just took off big time. I started running my groups, helplines, doing awareness presentations, whatever you want to call these things. But I just went along. I walked the walk. And then, yeah, I started these groups in a day centre. And that's where I met my husband. And he asked me to marry him, so we got married. And yeah, so now I'm happily married. Got 4 beautiful children. I've got a little boy and 3 girls. Feel very blessed. I give up cutting out the pain for a little while, because obviously my children come first, and being a mum is what is important. I'd always wanted to be a mum, and now I am. So basically, yeah, that is my journey. So I haven't drunk, took drugs, self-harmed, or done anything like that in the last 13 years, something like that. I'm not quite sure. But what I'm trying to say is that even when things in life seem really bad, there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. You've just got to want to reach that. But yeah, so anyway, everyone's asked me to share my story, so I have, and I hope it helps people. But I will be doing more videos on different topics to do with eating disorders, alcoholism, drug addicts, self-harming, bulimia, all different things. But if there is any questions you want to ask, please feel free to inbox me, and if I can answer them, I will. But yeah, so thank you for listening, and I don't know what else to say. And that's it. Bye.